Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up? MCR family. It's a special edition of the show. Because not only am I here live at House Stream Studio, but so is Gary. Yes. For the Gilberto Ramirez Sullivan Barrera card. He came into town.
The heck ton of horror fight.
The people's main event.
People's main event. And I forgot my heck ton of horror shirt, so
Damn, Gary.
Yeah.
Just repping 3D boxing vlog, which I understand. I respect. But we have a lot to get into on today's show in terms of fights. We have a really good main event that happened this last weekend, and Chris Colbert versus King Tug. I think a lot to dive in for that one. And obviously we have this, I think, really jam-packed Golden Boy card at the Bank California Arena in downtown LA. I'm excited for that. Excited that you're here, Gary. How are you, man?
It is. I missed Texas already. I've been all over, and Texas is always home. But it's good to be here. The weather's nice, so it made my wait outside for 40 minutes to get an Uber worth it. It's like, okay, well, at least it's nice out. It sucked if it was raining or it was in Minnesota or something.
Oh, man. That is true. At least it's nice and sunny. You know, it's summertime. It's not, the, muggy, overcast California weather, in the winter or fall. But, Gary, before we get into, obviously, the Hector Center horror card, which I know you're hyped on, let's circle back to the card last weekend on Showtime. Chris Colbert versus King Tug. Honestly, a really good main event. It was a fight that produced a lot of action, a lot of back and forth, I think, exchanges. I thought King Tug performed as best as he could on a 2-week notice, of course. But clearly Chris Colbert was the faster fighter, the better fighter. He was always just a step ahead of him in every way. And King Tug, I think, really had an issue getting going, whether that was due to worrying about cardio, due to the 2-week notice, or due to some sort of power from Chris Colbert. Your thoughts on Chris Colbert's performance against King Tug?
I thought it was, I'll give it an A or an A-. He just didn't get the stoppage. I thought Colbert was sensational. This is a guy that gave Gary Russell Jr., who I think, you guys know, I think Russell Jr. is one of the most skilled fighters in the world. He gave Russell Jr. problems. Now, you're right. He did have a much higher punch. Not that he throws a zillion punches, but he seemed to have a much higher punch output against Russell. Maybe that was concerns about cardio, going to 12 rounds. I don't know. But he gave Russell problems. I thought with Russell, it was a pretty even fight going to the last 4 rounds. And when Russell really turned up and then, won probably the last 4 rounds to clearly win that fight. But I thought King Tug was a much better opponent than Gamboa at this stage of their career. And I thought that he was going to test Colbert. And I'm not going to say Colbert, it was an easy fight because King Colbert was King Colbert.
Tug.
King Tug was competitive in the fight. He just wasn't winning any rounds. And
he did win some rounds.
1 or 2.
Come, Gary.
The judges didn't have it wider than that. They didn't see him.
There was a 117 scorecard, wasn't there?
Was there? I think it was 119 twice and then 117.
Hold on. We have it right here. There is, and it's two 118s actually, Gary.
Okay.
Put some respect on King
Tug's
Tug's
name.
name.
He won 2 rounds.
3.
On 1 card, but 2. He won 2 on the 3 card.
I could see 4.
I can't really see 2. There was 1 round early, and then the last round. Where's the third? I mean, I can see 2. I can't see 3. There was.
I don't have my scorecard in front of me, Gary.
I don't have it. There was 1 around early that I thought he won, and then the last round, obviously Colbert did nothing, and
there's another round in between that where he hurt.
The 9th.
We hurt Colbert.
But I still thought he landed a good shot, but I thought Colbert still did way better. I can see 3. Okay, 117, 110. I could see that.
Yeah.
I can see 117, 110.
And again, on 2 weeks' notice, a weight up. I mean, if this is arguably Colbert's best win, because I saw a lot of people saying that. Even we kind of had that discussion around the last show is this Colbert's best performance or best win, best opponent to date? Colbert shined really well in this fight, but it was also a 2-week notice opponent. I think we always have to add that into the context and analysis of this fight, because if this was a full 8-week, 12-week camp for King Tug, it might have been a much tougher fight for Chris Colbert. That's the reality here. I didn't step away from this fight going, yeah, you know what? Colbert can beat Shakur Stevenson. He can beat Oscar Valdez. He can beat Jamel Herring. I didn't get that. he's a notch below them right now, and he needs another fight or two to really get there.
King Tug is better than anyone that Shakur Stevenson has fought. Now, look, Shakur Stevenson hasn't lost a round in literally years. He's not lost a round in years. Joet Gonzalez, he lost 1 round to. I don't know that he's ever lost rounds, plural, in any fight. So he's dominant. It's like Jacob deGrom on the Mets. Every single outing, deGrom went up 2 runs today. So, but every single outing is a masterpiece, right? Like there's no. But Chris Colbert has fought way better opposition and similar amount of fights. Who's got more fights, Colbert or Shakur? I feel about the same, right?
Colbert's fought way better competition. I will give him that. That's without a doubt. I mean, we always talk about that. Shakur's only fought Joet Gonzalez,
who was a prospect, right?
It was just a prospect, and I didn't think a highly rated prospect.
Who I think is pretty good.
You can think that, Gary. You can think that.
I
okay.
said if he stays at 126, he will, because he's still young. He will eventually have a world title. I'm not saying he's going to be a long range, but if he stays there long enough and he can make that weight, he will get a world title.
He's never getting a world title. WBA regulars not included.
No, one of the 4 major belts.
Yeah, he's not getting it.
He'll get one. If he stays, if he can make that weight for the next 5 years, he'll get one. Because he's good. You know, there's a 5-year span. A division always goes through ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
There'll be a spot for sure where the division is not great, and he can beat somebody who has a strap. And I'm guessing.
He's also going to move up at that time too, right?
I'm saying if he can stay if he goes to 130 with Shakur Stevenson and Chris Colbert, that's going to be tough.
And then 135.
No, that's done. I'm saying the only way he can win a belt is at 26.
But against who? Navarrete?
You're going to have Perchelt coming up too. I don't know who's going to be a champion in the next 3, 4, 5 years. I mean,
Gary Russell.
Russell would leave that division, you would think. I think Russell's probably done at that division because Colbert's talking about fighting Santa Cruz. You were talking about how pissed Gary Russell will be if Colbert gets that fight overnight when Russell's wanted it for 5 years. As a matter of fact, he went on a hunger strike and didn't fight.
He went on a hunger strike? Like he's gone, dude.
Because he couldn't get the. And I do think that fight's probably going to happen next. I think it's a fun fight. It's an interesting fight. I think Colbert outboxes him, but I think Santa Cruz, Colbert very well could happen at the end of this year.
That's a logical fight next, I think, because I don't think you're going to see him fight Gervonta Davis next. That for some reason that just doesn't seem like the one that's going to be picked for.
He's going to fight Rivera next because I don't think he's going to go back down all the way to 30 straight away. Like he'll go to 35.
I don't think he can. I don't think I wouldn't advise it either. If I'm in his camp, like that's a tough 10-pound weight drop, or weight drop I should say specifically. I mean, you mentioned Michel Rivera. Thoughts on his performance? I mean, it was all right, and then all of a sudden the knockout. That's how I sort of.
I thought he was doing fine. It wasn't his best performance. The knockdown, I thought it's not. He hit him and he went down, but he was clearly slipping when he hit him. He hit him and he went down, so it's a knockdown. But if you look at him, he hit him like kind of like in the body, and he wasn't hurt. It wasn't like he was clinging to his ribs. Like he hit him, and he shouldn't be off balance. You're in a fight, don't be off balance, right? Like. But he wasn't hurt. That wasn't a big shot that dropped, so I just kind of wrote it off. The rest of the performance I thought was fine. I thought he was cautious. Like he said, Fernandez has heavy hands. Fernandez at least has a really good knockout ratio.
True.
So I think Rivera's like, this guy's got one chance to beat me. I'm not gonna engage him, right? Like he's heavy-handed. Mm-hmm. I could outbox him for days. I'm not gonna stand in with him, and then I'll box him, and then when my opportunity comes, I'll take it. I'm not saying Rivera beats Tank. He probably doesn't, but he's going to be a problem at 135. He beats Devin Haney. He beats a lot of guys. He's really good.
We've always said that he beats Devin Haney. I stay with that, but I don't think he's as much of a problem for, let's say, Lopez right now, Loma right now, Tank right now. Ryan would be a very tough fight, obviously, because he's a better boxer than Ryan. I think Rivera packs a lot of power, too. There's not like there's a huge power discrepancy there.
I don't think anyone beats T.O. at 35, and I don't think T.O. versus Tank would be such a fun fight. But T.O. and Tank would definitely be in because they're levels apart right now. After that, Ryan Garcia. What's it like, though, when you're in the ring with a guy, and all of a sudden the guy in the ring across from you is faster than you? How do you respond to that when you guys fire at the same time and he lands first? Like, we saw that happen to Mosley against Mayweather. It's like, I have nothing. There's no plan B. I mean, he can hit me before I hit him, but I'm going to lose then. Right? Yeah. And you saw him lose every single round after the second. I was interested. I talked to James Leha, and he said Mosley doesn't pack power. Because I thought speed. It's just speed. It's like being stabbed more than it is being hit with a hammer. He said it's just really quick, but it's like De La Hoya hit way harder, but Mosley had this like great knockout percentage, right? And he got a lot of great knockouts. He said it was just speed. But like, you look at, he didn't have a lot of early knockdowns, which kind of tell me that it's kind of a long-term, a beatdown effect, and then he gets you out. Because he had like Margarito was late in the fight. Mayorga was obviously with 2 seconds left, and even as a lightweight, most of his knockdowns came middle rounds, late rounds. He didn't blow people out in the first 2 rounds that I remember.
No, I don't remember as well. I'm excited for Michelle Rivera's future. I do think a Tank fight, which is just the only in-house fight for Tank at 135, is a fight way too soon for Michelle Rivera. And I hope it doesn't like hurt his career long term. Because let's say he gets knocked out viciously, that can always affect a fighter,
Which I think he will, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously the strategy is going to be to
fight long.
And I think like Barrios, he'll do that for a while, and then eventually, you saw Tank lose the first 4 rounds with Barrios. You saw him getting closer and closer and closer, and
also Barrios not doing a lot of damage in that 4 rounds.
Right.
Tank was able to really block and parry and slip a lot of that shots and offense from Barrios. So you'll do the same thing.
I can guarantee you, Rivera doesn't hit as hard as Barrios, so he's going to do even less damage, right? Yeah, I don't think that fight goes well for Rivera. I think he could be up on points, but it's all for naught because he's going to get knocked out.
No, I echo that 100%. What else was on that card? On the Showtime card, a lot of.
Oh, that was the only ones they showed on TV because they showed the replay of the fight. But shout out to my boy Angel Alejandro, who scored a unanimous decision over another unbeaten opponent named Rudy Ochoa. Angel Alejandro from Dallas, Texas.
Now, let's get to the card coming up this weekend, which obviously you're in town for in LA. Get both the Ramirez versus Barrera, or as we say here, the Hector Tanajara card. Thoughts on Tanajara fighting another undefeated fighter, William Cepeda?
He wanted a big step up, and this is a big step up. My problem with it is when they said Cepeda, didn't everyone think it was 140 pounds Cepeda? When it was officially announced, one of the articles even put it. It was Jose Cepeda, and then I started reading the article. Another article was like, no, it's William Cepeda, undefeated Mexican fighter. I'm like, I don't know who this is. Now he's got a great knockout ratio. Supposedly he's good. I have no idea. You watch him on YouTube, but like, who's he fighting? I don't know. I think Tanajara is so skillful that he will figure this out because Cepeda just doesn't have the experience. But against high level boxers. But I think this is a high risk, low reward kind of fight. Like, I'm not like, if Tanajara wins this fight, does the public opinion then put him in the same category as Ryan Garcia? No, because no one knows who Cepeda is. You know what I'm saying?
No. And Tanajara still has that issue where he's like in a promotional company that has no idea how to promote fighters right now, and he's not on their priority list still. Like, that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
Is like they still don't know how to promote Ryan Garcia and Ortiz. They're only guys that are really in that position where you can really capitalize on whatever stardom they have or don't have, Ortiz. Because I don't think he's that much of a star. But they could build him in that division. They could work him in a certain way with all the other names at welterweight, but they don't. Tanajara is not even on their priority list, it seems. So there's a real issue, I think, with him, what's going forward for him. I know Rashidi Ellis came out in an interview and said he's going through a contract dispute with Golden Boy, and that's why we haven't seen him in a while.
They haven't done much with him in years and years because he's really quick. He's got a ton of skills. Me and Matt have always thought that he had, a really high pedigree and a really high ceiling, and they've done nothing with him. Now, like, if I'm Virgil Ortiz, it's not even worth my time to fight him because you've done nothing to promote your own fighter, right? Like, if I'm Virgil Ortiz, I'm not. That's a step back for me at this point. I don't know who they're going to put him in the ring with. I heard this Ajivas thing might not happen. His manager, Rick Morangan, said he's got...
Me Machine?
Yeah. He's got a bigger opponent, a top 10 name that was willing to fight him that they're going to announce soon. This was a week ago. I have not heard anything since.
There's no top 10 name there, right?
I mean, the only one I could think of was Ugas.
But he's fighting Berto.
Is that official?
I don't know if it's official.
That can't be official.
That's
Berto
an awful fight.
3 years.
That's an awful fight, Gary.
When was the last time Berto fought? It was when he lost to Devin Alexander, right? On points?
I think you're
right.
That
I thought he won, but...
That was on Fox, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awful card.
That's got to be 3 years ago now, right?
So bad. I don't even want to think about it. Why is Ugas fighting Berto?
I can't be. I don't know. I'll wait for that to be official.
That's some Terrence Crawford matchmaking right there.
There was what would be the other names that he could? Sean Porter, but he's not gonna fight Sean Porter.
No, he's not fighting Sean Porter. If they do, if Ortiz fights Sean Porter or any PBC name that's worth like anything, even like a Jamal James, right? I think he has a fight too, so I don't think that's happening. But if you fight any of those top PBC names, Top Rank and Terrence Crawford look even more like a fool, an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality, or a duck, or whatever word we want to use. I mean, maybe it's Jared Ennis. You know, maybe
I can't see him doing that this early in their career. I mean, I was liking the name Ugas because I think he can win that fight. Abel Ramos was another name I thought, but like I don't think that
it'd be a good fight.
It would be a good fight. I don't
really
think PBC would do that because they still have money to make with Ramos, I think.
But they really don't. He's a Felix Diaz. Obviously, Felix Diaz was an opponent for Terrence Crawford, and he was a PBC guy. He was a B-side, right?
Yeah.
And he got robbed against Lamont Peterson, then they threw him against Terrence Crawford. Everyone always talks about PBC throwing the B-sides to the real competition, never the A-sides. Abel Ramos is a B-side. Like, there's no real reason to keep him around. Earl Spence is busy. Thurman's probably going to be busy with Porter because they're rematching, right? We have Danny Garcia moving up in the division. Spence Pacquiao. I mean, everyone's busy right now.
So the top 10 name that Morangan is talking about, who else? I mean, unless it's a name that he says is a top 10 name that clearly isn't, right?
Conor Benn, in-house DAZN fight?
I guess, but no one has Conor Benn in the top 10.
No.
Nobody. And I think Conor Benn's really good, by the way. Like, really good.
A manager hyping up his fighter's next fight? Absolutely. Conor Benn's 100% in a top 10 ranking in one of the sanctioned bodies.
Hey, probably, yeah.
Come on. He has a belt around him, doesn't he? Have like a WBO, like Intercontinental belt?
I don't know.
Hold on, he must have something here. But anyone else like Jesse Vargas, is he available?
But is he fighting at 54 now?
Yeah, but come on, he's skinny.
What the
fuck is Conor Benn's name? He's ranked number 20 by BoxRec, by the way, so definitely wouldn't be
WBA Continental.
Just Continental belt. No.
And I think, and he's fighting Granados too. So
that's not it.
Well, I mean, what Mikey Garcia? But they train together. Like his brother trains him. I don't think. So I'm running out of names. So the only names I can come up with, and Garcia's leaving the division, is Ugas, and Keith Thurman said he doesn't know who Virgil Ortiz is. So that's not that.
Dude, shout out to Keith Thurman.
He knows exactly. You better not duck me, son. When my time comes, you better not duck me, son. And now he's ducking Virgil Ortiz. But
who? The guy that beat what's his name? Brad Solomon?
Maurice Hooker. Orozco.
I mean, those are good wins. I wanted to mention the shitty win, Gary, clearly.
Everyone, when Hooker fights again, you think they're gonna put him with Solomon? Because that's just if you're tired.
Dude, no, poor Brad Solomon. Didn't he fight recently and lose?
Yeah, he just got destroyed by Blair Cobb.
Yeah,
because he's a welterweight with.
Dude, Blair Cobb beat him. No, Gary. Blair Cobb beat him. Blair Cobb's one of the worst prospects I've seen in boxing, and that includes Joey Spencer in that list.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think Blair Cobb is a future world champion or anything, but I don't think he's that bad either.
Oh man, he's awful. I get hype job vibes all around Blair Cobb.
I like that he comes out to Ric Flair's theme song.
Back to Tanahara though. Yeah, I'm getting Munguia Saddam Ali vibes from this fight.
You think the Petty guy is gonna like dent him up?
I don't know, but I mean, it's always hard to tell with Mexican records, right?
Yeah,
it just is. We have no idea who he's fought. He's fought no one worthy of note. He has a great knockout ratio. I'll be honest, I have not seen a single minute of video of this guy, but I'm picking him to beat your guy, knockout within 6 rounds. Munguia Saddam Ali happening again right here.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to pick that. I'm obviously going to pick Tyler Hunter to win 120 to 108. But I don't know about this guy. I mean, maybe his power is really good. He's not 2 weight classes bigger than Tanahara like Munguia was with Saddam Ali.
Poor Saddam Ali.
And I picked Munguia to win that fight because I knew nothing about him, but I knew Ali wasn't that good. I mean, my guess on Zepeda is as good as anyone else because we haven't seen him fight. There are a lot of people who think he's really good, but there's a lot of people who thought Munguia was really good too.
That is true. I remember we had a caller back when we had callers that was called Mr. Zone, and he would say that Munguia, speaking of he, was better than Chavez Sr.
I mean, there's that. That's interesting, right? Like that's interesting.
No, it's not, Gary.
It's interesting if nothing else.
It is pure stupidity.
Of course, it's stupidity. But
oh my god.
Lamont Roach is fighting on this card.
Fighting Daniel Rosas. Poor Lamont Roach, man. I'll be honest. Tanahara is going to end up like Lamont Roach.
Yeah, Lamont Roach. For a guy who doesn't carry pop, you got to jab. And he doesn't jab at all.
No. Tanahara jabs.
Tanahara has a great jab.
I mean, he has a jab.
He doesn't fight anything like Roach. Roach is a guy who's based on his athleticism, but like he kind of lunges in and stuff. And he's quick with it, but he's like at the highest level. Like you saw what Jamel Herring did to him. If you can sit there and box him, you'll outbox him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't think he beats anyone in the top 10 right now, especially at 130 because that's just getting deeper and deeper. 135.
He's a forgotten name. He was a pretty touted prospect for a time, and then he
was he an Olympian?
No, he had a draw with Orlando Cruz. Is that his name?
Yes.
And that kind of set him back, and then he like kind of exposed like just box him. He doesn't jab, like he doesn't use his stick at all. He's and obviously he doesn't have a lot of pop. No. I don't really know what they liked about him, honestly. I don't know, like he was a pretty touted prospect. But I don't really know what they liked about him in retrospect.
I think it was a little bit of just like Golden Boy when that PBC split happened. They didn't have a lot to work with, and Lamont Roach is one of those guys they had, and they just pushed him. And it's not because he was that good. They just didn't have anyone in the stable after that huge exodus of PBC being formed. Because that feels like around the same time that Lamont Roach started getting a lot of attention from the media. It's because he was one of the few prospects Golden Boy had at the time.
Yeah.
That in their minds, and a lot of people's minds in a short while, could be a title contender in the near future. But everyone asking about the Zoo card, we didn't watch that, unfortunately. I apologize.
Once they pulled out Hurricane, I always want to call him Hurricane O'Malley. Dennis Hogan, Hurricane Hogan, and they put a guy that was 12-0, who I never heard of. I wouldn't have that much interest, but at least Hogan's a name that we can measure him against. Hogan beat Munguia. That's right, I said it. Clearly beat him too. And then got blown out by Charlo, so he's somewhere in between Munguia and Charlo. Okay, let's see. Can Zoo blow him out like Charlo did? Or is he going to struggle with him? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a gauge to measure Zoo more than anything else.
Do you know what fight I want for Zoo? Tony Harrison.
Will they work together, though?
I mean, who's Zoo technically aligned with? I mean, Liam Roscoe in the chat, obviously our Australian listener, he might know exactly who he's aligned with. But
I just kind of as a top-ranked fighter, but maybe I guess he's not. It's just because he fights with the ESPN Apple. Like they always pick up his fights, but I don't think he's a top-ranked fighter.
I don't think so either, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I mean, it's always a different market, so I'm not an expert when it comes to that. Ryan Hogg is saying, you mean Zarafa? Was he fighting? I thought he was fighting Michael.
Oh, Zavara. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, big barometer fight with Colbert. And who else? Peter Quillen, right?
Yeah, he's been in.
Do you remember Peter Quillen?
I thought Quillen was good. So, a funny story about Peter Quillen.
Everyone picked him against Daniel Jacobs.
Everyone. Story about Peter Quillen. I worked as a stockbroker on 120 Broadway, which is like a famous building. And this guy gets on the elevator with me. I went with one of my friends, and it's like 8 o'clock at night. We're leaving. And he goes, "Hey, you a boxing fan?" This is before his pro debut. Or maybe he was 1-0 at the time. And my buddy goes, "No, he's a big boxing fan." He gives me a fight poster, right? Mm-hmm. This is before I had no idea who he is. Like, do you know who Peter Quillen is? Kid Chuck. I'm like, I don't know who this is. Guys, 1-0. I've never heard of him. Anyway, end up being a world champion. So.
But just like an all right world champion. Everybody knows.
But listen, if every 1-0 fighter gave you their fight poster, how many of those 1-0 fighters turn into a world champion?
Oh, very little.
Almost none.
Almost none. What else? I think Liam saying it was a good setup. Hold on, where is it at? I love the setup. Who is visiting who? Gary is in town in LA for the Gilberto Ramirez card. So that's why Gary is blessing us with his presence. Thank you, Gary. Always appreciate it.
It is good to be here.
Yeah, actually our first time
meeting in person, like in the flesh.
I've met Fu before.
Oh, back on Name Redacted when you were in Dallas?
On Name Redacted, yes.
Okay.
Did I ever tell you what happened? But yeah, because of course, I texted the group chat what name.
He wanted you to. I thought you were going to say what happened with Chris Colbert and him.
No.
Look, I like Chris Colbert. I mean, that guy is in New York through and through. He just tells you what he thinks. If you don't like, that's too bad. Chris Colbert keeps talking about keeping it in a buck. Chris Colbert keeps it a buck 100% of the time. Like, he was asked about fighting Shakur Stevenson and Herring winner should that fight happen, and he's like, "The fight's not gonna happen. So I'm not even gonna address it. But I would beat both of them." But like, I'm not gonna talk about this ridiculous fight because it's not gonna happen. Which is, I guess you work for PBC too. They don't work for you. You work for them, right? Because I got furious when LRB said that Tank wasn't going to be fighting at 140, even though I think that's the right decision. It's not your decision, it's his decision. And then Mayweather says he's only going to fight PBC, Mayweather promotion guys. Who works for who? So what you're telling me is that Tank Davis goes in the ring, puts his life on the line against naturally bigger guys to make you a paycheck? This is not the other way around. You don't promote him to try to make him more money. He works for you. This is the dynamic now. How long has this been the dynamic? Because I remember Roy Jones Jr. saying,
Gary, it's always been the dynamic.
I remember Roy Jones Jr. saying, this is who I want to fight. Make this fight happen, and you get me paid as much as you can. But this is the fight we're making. And he also had a very small promotional company. So it's a little different with these majors. But if Tank Davis works for PBC, why does he need to be there? He's a big enough draw now that he doesn't need PBC. He really doesn't.
Gary, let's be honest here. One, Roy Jones was never a star. Was never a moneymaker.
Compared to Tank Davis, he was.
I mean, he had many pay-per-views that did Crawford numbers. Even at the height of his...
Yeah, the Montel Griffin one. Yeah, he never had a good B-side. His pay-per-views didn't do well.
No.
It did not.
I mean, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but from what I remember, we'll get back to that question, Ryan, in a second, because I do like that question. I want to get to Gary's psychosis on Hector Shinohara. But back to this point, like, Roy Jones was never a superstar. And when it comes to the sport of boxing and the money makers, promoters have always been leeches on these fighters to some extent. Whether it was the Mafia promoting, whether it's Bob Arum in the 60s, whether it's Don King, right? Like, this has always been, unfortunately, a feature of this sport, where money grubby promoters and managers get their hands on these very young athletes that aren't business savvy and take full advantage of them and control their careers.
If you're hosting, and I don't mean to disrespect this, but if you're a middling contender, right? If you're a prospect who's not exactly setting the world on fire, right? Yes. Okay, fine. But if you're Tank Davis, you don't need them. You really don't. You don't need PBC. No disrespect to PBC or any promotional company. If you're Terrence Crawford, you don't need Top Rank. They're holding you back. But get out of the contract.
But Gary, wouldn't you say it's similar to, like, let's say, like, music, the music industry and music labels? Like, a lot of artists don't need music label companies anymore for distribution. Everything's online. Everything's digital distribution now, right?
So I was going to make that point too, but I don't understand. I don't know the music industry, so I don't know why they like. Why do you need?
And there's a reason why there's been a spike in independent artists lately, but that's beside the point. There's still a lot of artists that sign to big record labels, of course, because there's a legacy, to these record labels. There's a assumed network connections that they have that you don't have, obviously.
Sure, and there's a time that you need them. Like I'm saying, if you're a prospect, but if you're Tank Davis, you're already a proven commodity. What are they really doing for you at this point, besides telling you who you can't fight? And then all the Lomachenkos, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, but you can't fight them.
But let's be honest, Gary, if he's on contract, he can't get out of it right now. You think he can buy out his contract right now?
I don't know what he does with his money. If I was in his position, I would be able to buy myself out of the contract. What I'm saying is I would have, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not making him Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao. He's making him good money.
Absolutely.
But he's not making him Canelo money or Pacquiao money or Mayweather money.
No, he's not.
So like
or Cotto money.
Or Cotto money, right?
No. Close though.
Is he though? I mean,
he's $100K off. And that's significant at this point. For how low it is, it's significant. That's another 33%.
You should be able to either sue them, right? And I don't know how these contracts read, but if they're telling me no, that's not how this works. You're telling me you're eliminating, 90% of the opponents out there, and I can only fight PBC guys. That's got to be some kind of breach of contract. Like, did we agree to that one? I can't see that being agreed to.
But look at Crawford. Look what's happening with him. I mean, he's a full decade older than Tank Davis, probably, give or take.
At least. Oh, yeah, about a decade. Yeah.
Give or take, probably, maybe a year off.
34 and 25. I think it's 9 years,
Look how much he's been controlled through Top Rank and how detrimental that's been through his career and how he's been unable to get out of it. I mean, this is not just a one-issue thing with Mayweather. I'm not saying it's not an issue with Mayweather Promotions and Tank Davis. I'm saying that this is a industry-wide issue, and it's been this way since the inception of it being of the sort of Queensberry rules and such in the late 1800s.
How come there was a meme going around with a really old lady walking on a walker and like a younger lady like helping her, guiding her, and the old lady goes, "Fighters used to fight each other," and the younger lady goes, "Sure they did, Grandma. Let's get you inside." But they did. Like fighters used to fight each other, right? Like,
that's also yes and no, Gary. There's context to that, right? One, we go far enough back. There's a limited amount of belts back then compared to now. You had 1 or 2 sanctioning bodies back then compared to 4.
Well, I'm going back to my time
now.
in the 90s, right? Like I'm 10 years older than you, 12 years older than you. I'm going back to the 90s. They fought each other.
But not every fight happened.
Every fight you'd want to happen, like every big fight.
Who threw his belt in the trash?
Okay, because it was going to happen, and he didn't want to fight him, right? Okay, that's true. Riddick Bowe threw his belt in the trash because.
You think Don King was fucking with Mike Tyson's career and mismanaging it to a similar degree?
I mean, yeah, there's similarities. It's also different because Mike Tyson did fight those guys, right?
Yeah, but Mike Tyson also fought those guys later on in his career too. Like Holyfield was later on in his career. That wasn't his prime.
It was supposed to be made in '90, and then he lost. Apparently, Holyfield had already signed, and they were just waiting for details. And he lost to a guy named Buster Douglas, who was a 42-1 underdog, so it didn't happen. And then when Holyfield knocked out Douglas, it was signed. It was supposed to happen. It was signed, and then Tyson got the rib injury, and they had to delay it. And when they delayed it is when he got the charges. And obviously that fight fell apart, and he ended up fighting Burt Cooper and almost getting knocked out. But that fight was signed, right? It was happening. It just Tyson.
Who was Holyfield signed with?
Lou Duva, main events.
Okay.
They used to be the player.
Oh well, I mean Lou Duva used to be main events, like you said, used to be a much bigger player under Lou Duva, of course.
But Whitaker was with main events, and the rest of the like De La Hoya was with Top Rank. He fought De La Hoya. Trinidad was with Don King. Yes, he was way too old, and he wasn't even that old. He was just washed up on coke when he fought Trinidad, right? But he fought those guys. They worked together and they made the fights. And you're gonna give me examples of Joe DeGuardia working with Top Rank. Okay, fine. But we're talking about a major player and a mid-major, right? Like you know how like in college basketball you have like your major programs, Pac-12, the Big East, and then you have like I went to Hofstra, it's the Colonial Conference. It's Division I, but it's not a major school. It's a mid-major school, right? So it's like. If USC came to Hofstra and said, "We want to play you," what's Hofstra going to say? It's more money than we're going to see for the program for the rest of the year combined. Of course, we'll make that game. But USC dictates something. What I'm saying is, if USC went to Villanova and said, "Let's play this year," they're going to have to negotiate a split on that, right? Like that was. What I'm talking, that's what I'm saying. Like the majors used to be able to work these things out. I feel like they don't work themselves out anymore. And I feel like if this was the 90s when I was 15 years old, Crawford and Spence would have fought twice by now. But they don't seem to work. And I think Spence finally wants the fight because he doesn't want to leave the division. I think his time at 147 is just about over. And he wants that notch on his belt. But I still don't know if it's worth it. Because honestly, what's a bigger fight as far as pay-per-views? Him fighting Crawford or him fighting, Thurman? It's probably about the same, right? So just fight Thurman. We'll keep the money in our circle. Just fight Thurman. Even if it's a little less, which it probably is, right? Because a Crawford fight would kind of be for undisputed. It would be a Teofimo Lopez situation again.
Then what do you think this honestly is then? Because let's be honest here. I mean, most of these players have been around since the 90s. So the era you're talking about, all the players now at the very top were players then too. Whether it was Al Heyman, even though he obviously wasn't down at PBC then, but he was still advising fighters even back then, of course. Probably more in the music industry, but he was still advising fighters back then. Bob Arum, obviously, is still one of the major players
60
around.
50 or something.
De La Hoya wasn't a promoter in the 90s per se, I think. He started as a promotional
early
later.
2000s,
Yeah. 2000s. But he's still a major player then. Mayweather was a major player then. I mean, these are people that were around then. I mean, what has, in your mind, changed? Because in my mind, I haven't seen a change in the system in my lifetime. And when I think of the glory days of boxing, there's enough key fights that we can talk about them being delayed, whether it's Sugar and Leonard and Marvin Hagler, whatever they may be, that these are matchups that are an example, an epitome of the issues that we still have today.
And De La Hoya also fought Chavez, who was a Don King guy. And I know Chavez was shot, but that was still a fight everyone wanted to see because it was changing of the. Yeah.
If I'm twice.
Short ties. The second one was actually more competitive than the first one, even though he was like 2 years older. But that was what everyone wanted to see. And Chavez was and will always be a draw. And that fight got made. Like, when De La Hoya wanted to fight Trinidad, the fight got made. It got made immediately. I think Spence wants to fight Crawford now, after the Pacquiao fight, and then leave the division. Let's see if it gets made. Like, if it gets made, then that's a point. That's an argument against what I'm saying.
So, in your argument, do you think that Spence hasn't wanted the fight with Crawford this whole time?
Okay,
and
I don't think
the fight hasn't been made?
either of them were ducking it, but I think it was like when Wilder was supposed to fight Joshua 3 years ago. If you can make the fight and get me paid an incredible sum of money, I'll take it. I'm not really worried about it. I don't. If it gets made for the right amount of money, great. If not, I'll wait on it. Like, it's not a big deal.
Liam Roscoe saying it's the network exclusive deals. I don't think that's as much of an issue as it used to be chalked up to be. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was a big issue.
That's right. Like that's a part of it. Like, I think the amount of money in fights right now, if I can make $5 million to fight Keith Thurman, if I'm Spence, and I make $6 million to fight Crawford, I'll just fight. You know what I'm saying? We'll just keep it in our own network. Like, the purses got so big so quickly. The incentive to work across party lines kind of lost all incentive because I'll just get rich fighting these guys. Like, the money, the purse is so insane. Like, I was talking to Leha, and Leha told me he got good purses. I'm like, well, what's your good purse? Like, for the Gatti fight and the like $400,000 or $500,000. It's like, damn, that's not a good purse anymore, right? Like, it's not. Like, even gross that up to $20, $21. It's like you're still being, I don't want to say, underpaid, but you're still making less than drastically less than what they're making now to fight the best names in the sport. If you fought Pacquiao today, or you fought Canelo today, the biggest names in the sport, like Mosley and De La Hoya, were $400,000 or $500,000 would not be a good purse. But we're talking about Caleb Plant should start negotiations and settle for $10 million, right?
But that era also, like, let's say, like the 90s into like the mid 2000s, that was a bigger era for pay-per-view, wasn't it? Like, Mike Tyson was a bigger draw. Oscar De La Hoya was doing
Chavez was still a draw too.
Mayweather obviously came in his own. Pacquiao then came in his own. Like, they were all doing big numbers, and they all fought relatively great competition.
Mayweather did good numbers. Like, we would look at Mayweather's numbers and say they were good. They weren't Mayweather numbers like the Judah number, the Judah number, the Gatti number. They were good numbers, 400,000 or 500,000. He didn't start doing the Mayweather numbers.
350 for Gotti.
350 for Gatti, yeah.
350, yeah.
Which is a good number.
That's like the Earl Spence number. That's what I compared it to.
But it's not until he went to 147 is when he started getting the insane Mike Tyson, Canelo, like the insane numbers, like the 2 million. He always did a good draw because he always had a fan base. But he didn't really start doing those insane numbers until he moved up to 147.
Yeah, and when you're talking about like there's so much money in this sport, there's so much money back then, but I would say most of those top guys fought the best guys. Right? Like, when we look at Tyson, Pacquiao, De La Hoya, Mayweather, I mean, they fought the murderer's row.
Yeah.
Like, when you really dive into the resume, even their like whatever names, They're the best names on Crawford's resume, for example. They'd be the best names on Porter's resume. You know, like it's insane the level of competition those guys went through comparative to now. But like you said, there was a lot of money back then too. More pay-per-view money on the top for these guys. And those fights still got made. And they're all the same players today.
What's crazy is, like, if we're going to say Crawford's the top welterweight in the world, let's just say he is. Okay. I know, because half people are going to say that and half people are going to say Spencer. But, like, let's say it's Crawford.
Oh, say who is the top
welterweight. Yeah. Let's say it's Crawford. He's going to fight Zepeda. Okay, let's go back a generation and say if that was Mayweather, right? When Mayweather was the best welterweight in the world, if he fought someone at Zepeda's level in his prime, what would be said about that? Go back before that, when it was Pacquiao, when it was De La Hoya. If they fought a Jose Zepeda type fighter, they would be destroyed. Like that wouldn't even be on the radar. That would, like, no, you're not fighting that guy. That's ridiculous.
Like, think about, like, because there are like some like matchups that they had that were like guys come up and weight and they fought him. Of course, like Ricky Hatton, for example. Or Juan Marquez.
Megastar, though.
But that's what I'm saying. Like Juan Marquez was a 135 champion, moved up to 147 for Mayweather. It might have been a catch weight. You know, but those guys are Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like what you said. It's not
Zepeda.
It's not Zepeda.
A career contender.
Hey, I'll even throw some shade at my own guy. It's not Canelo bring up Amir Khan. You know what I mean?
But Khan is still was a 2-division world champ.
But he's not a Ricky Hatton.
No, he's not a Ricky Hatton.
He's not a Juan Marquez. Like,
no, not even close.
He's not those guys. So even their, like I said, like their fights that we sort of criticize and critique, it was great competition still. And they were still making tons and tons of money. More money than these fighters are now, I would assume. Even with the inflation involved. Because they were doing 1 million plus pay-per-views most of the time.
Yeah.
These guys are barely scratching 300K, 400K. So is it just that there's so much money in the sport, or is that there's so much money through the network deals?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And there's so much fluff at the top that these sort of TV fights or streaming fights, they can make them for X amount of dollars, when before HBO couldn't cover the budget, Showtime couldn't cover the budget. Those had to be pay-per-view, and therefore the market, the industry generated pay-per-view stars because it had to.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't really have to because there's so many cards off pay-per-view. When I would assume, Gary, because you probably know better than me, in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of those HBO Showtime cards were pay-per-view. At least all the big ones were.
The big ones were, and I think that really killed boxing. You know, because you had like the all the featherweights from the early 2000s. You know, you had Pacquiao, Morales, and Hamed.
Yeah.
And
the great.
They all fought. They hit him behind. I guess at that time it was $59.99 pay-per-view. Like, who's gonna buy that to watch featherweights? That, like, you know what I'm saying? Roy Jones, like Matt said, did not do well on pay-per-view, so they put him on regular HBO quite a bit. He fought on HBO more than anyone else, like in the history of HBO. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't constantly stick him behind a paywall. Oh, besides whatever, the HBO paywall. But you know what I'm saying? An additional paywall. They gave you lots of Roy Jones fights for, I don't want to say free, but for their
just the premium subscription instead of the added pay-per-view cost. Absolutely. But back to the card, because I know we got off tangent there, but that was a good tangent to get on. Ryan in the chat, I don't know if I can find it. Because I want to know, Gary, why are you a fan of Tanahara as much as you are? Because we didn't finish that card, so I have to get back to it. Tanahara, obviously, just a prospect. And I talked to a lot of people that know boxing. They like Tanahara, but they're not hyped on him like you are. Like, I can get Ortiz.
They don't travel halfway across the country to watch him fight three fights from the top?
No.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What is it, Gary? What about Tanahara? Why do you see championship material in the way?
Well, his skills are dynamic. I think, he's fundamentally skilled, fundamentally perfect. Like, he's a textbook fighter. And then he keeps, like, when he fought Burgos in his last fight, now he fights on the inside. He beat Burgos. Now, he didn't have the power to get that guy out because Burgos was tough as hell. But you saw he was really good on the inside. Now, he shouldn't fight top-notch guys on the inside. Don't do that. Don't fight Tank Davis on the inside. And then with the rest of the names in the lightweight division, right? Like, everyone's got a team. T.O., Ryan Garcia, Loma. I think he's disrespected. I think that disrespect kind of like makes me cheer for him. Like he's the underdog, right? Like he's when Butler went to play Duke in the national championship, and everyone's like, "This is a mismatch." Not really. Like Butler had Gordon Hayward. They lost by 3 or 2, but they were in the game, right? Like it wasn't like it was a complete mismatch like you would expect. They were just as good, right? Like they were in there with the best team in the land. I think Tanahara, does he beat all these guys? He doesn't beat T.O. and he doesn't beat Tank. Does he beat Ryan Garcia? I think so. Does he beat Devin? He's in there with all those guys. I don't know why they're getting all of the rub, all of the gloss. And Tanahara, who Ryan Garcia openly ducked. You know what I'm saying? And it makes me cheer for him. And I talked to Third Degree Burns, Clay Burns, who's always fights on ESPN cards as an opponent. He fought Haney, and he fought Tanahara. And I said, who's better? Who's got better skills? Without hesitation, he said Tanahara. Like, not even thinking about it. Tanahara's skills are so incredibly sharp. I think he's such an excellent textbook fighter. Is his speed good enough? Right? Because his power's not. Is his speed good enough where he can really make you pay and pour on shots and make you show up because of his speed? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? We're going to find out. Because the other guys in that division, besides Haney, they can all crack, all of them. Like even Loma, who doesn't have the biggest punch in the world, he knocks people out. Obviously, Teofimo Lopez has insane power. Tank Davis has insane power. Ryan Garcia has insane power. So he can't trade with those guys. But I think he can outbox all of them.
I play a pick. You might be surprised by this, Gary. I might pick Tanahara against Haney right now. But that player goes more to my Devin Haney hate than my Tanahara love. But I think it's a better boxer. I think it's a better jab. In terms of just like a pure boxing fight, it would be a jab fest between those two. I Okay, we're back. We're back. I apologize. Power went out. Let me turn the light on over there too, Gary.
Oh,
Oh, Gary.
Oh,
Gary. Oh, I have it too. We both fucked up. Look at us. Anyways, back to your Tanahara love. I think he was gonna beat Haney, but there's no way he beats Ryan Garcia. You talk about dynamic fighters. Ryan Garcia is a far more dynamic fighter than Tanahara. Has power, has the more speed, I would say, as well. Tanahara is just the better boxer in that equation. And like you said, any of the other top guys, Loma, Teofimo Lopez, even like guys like Richard Comey, I would probably pick against Tanahara at this point in time.
if this kid can crack, and again, I don't know anything about Zepeda, but let's say Zepeda's power is real, and that's what he is. He's a come forward pressure fighter with power. And Tanahara outclasses him. Is that would that help add any love to where you rank Tanahara? I mean, is there anything he can do today without outside of scoring any sensational one-punch knockout with an uppercut or something like that? Anything realistically that he can do that would say, okay, he's better than I expected?
I think yes, to a degree. If he truly outclass, like you said, 120, 108, whatever.
Yeah.
Like if he does that, yeah, I would say so. Because I think undefeated Mexican fighter that has a knockout ratio like that, 20 knockouts out of 22 wins, beating him the way he would in that sort of thought experiment, because he especially doesn't have power, Tanahara, would be impressive. There's no way to deny that.
Yeah.
Would it mean that I would then rank him above guys like Ryan Garcia? No, I would still probably pick Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia is a proven commodity. Like, he beat Luke Campbell the fuck up, like worse than Loma did, right?
Yeah, yes, for sure, worse than Loma did, because he stopped him and knocked his head off. Yeah, I was expecting Campbell to get going. Once Campbell survived the first couple of rounds, I said, okay, Ryan shot his load here, and I think Campbell is going to come in and outbox him, and then he got knocked out. No, that is obviously Ryan Garcia's signature win thus far. But he did openly duck Hector Tanahara, and they didn't force the issue. Like, there's a reason they didn't force the issue, is because it's really, really hard to look good and beat a guy as sharp as Tanahara is.
But is it they ducked him because Tanahara is that good, or because he's not one of the top guys? He's not a star. He's not a money fight, and they're moving away from fighting other prospects.
That was last July. You know who he fought instead of Tanahara? Nobody. So it's not that, right? Like the reason why the fight didn't happen, if that helps, like he's not a star, so there was no. But it's not like they passed him over for a bigger name. They passed him over to literally fight nobody. He didn't fight again until January. So he missed that fight entirely. So I mean, you can say like, oh well, he didn't want to fight Tanahara. Well, he literally skipped the payday not to fight him.
Maybe he didn't need the payday. Like that
He's
sort of payday.
21 years old. Of course, who doesn't need a payday when they're 21?
But if you're trying to get bigger fights, like a Tank Davis fight, or I mean, at that time he already fought Luke Campbell, right?
No, this was before Luke Campbell.
I mean, you're trying to get a top ranked opponent. Tanahara is not that, right? Like if you're not gonna get a money fight and you're that prospect moving up, then you're trying to get somebody ranked above you to then leap over and then work your way up still, right?
Yeah.
Tanahara is not that. He's a sidestep at that point for Ryan Garcia.
But that was the fight that was available for you at the time. But there was no other fight. It wasn't like he
So he chose not to fight on that date or that month, right? And then fought Luke Campbell
6 months later. So you didn't fight at all. It's like you just skipped that fight.
Maybe he wanted a break. Maybe he wanted a break from the training camps.
It just conveniently coincided with the guy he can't beat.
But you say the guy that you can't beat, but that's just like an opinion.
Well, of course, I'm giving my opinion. That's what we're doing here, right?
Yeah, I understand that, but like, there's nothing that Tanahara has on his ledger that we go, yes, he can beat Ryan Garcia right now.
Yeah, Ryan Garcia has the better resume for sure, because
even guys like Jason Velez, I think, is a really good win.
In retrospect, he was like 19 when that happened. That's a good win.
Really good win.
Yeah, he's gotten the push, right? It's like, why does Virgil Ortiz have a better resume than Ellis? Because they gave Ortiz the push, and not Ellis, right? Like Ellis could have could have those wins, but they didn't give him the push. They gave it to Virgil Ortiz. So
Yeah, but Tanahara doesn't have. He wouldn't ever have the win over Campbell the way Ryan had.
It wouldn't be in that way.
Yeah,
It would be a jab fest. Yeah.
It would be a boxing affair, and you have to outbox Campbell.
Which
would be
is
tough.
why Garcia and Virgil Ortiz get the push, and Ellis. Although Ellis knocks people out, doesn't he? I mean, it's not sensational. He doesn't destroy people like Ortiz does, but he gets stoppages. And Ellis and Tanahara, the less sensational kind of posterizing fighters, don't get the push.
No, I agree with that. He doesn't get the push, but I also think that even if he did get the push, he wouldn't have the performances that Ryan Garcia had.
They would end. No,
he probably win. You probably beat those guys.
What I'm saying. The result would be the same, but I don't like. He would get the knockout, obviously.
And I would even argue that the Luke Campbell fight would be very tough for Tanahara. I think that's not a automatic win for Tanahara. I mean, you have an Olympic gold medalist in front of you, who on paper is a better boxer than Tanahara. Right, maybe not in actual practice and but the material world we're going to find out if they ever fight. But on paper, Luke Campbell's the better boxer, right? Just because of the Olympic medal.
Yeah, I still would like that as a fight. I'm sure they won't make it because of how boring it would be.
Yeah,
but I would still I think it's a great test for him. I think Fortuna is a great test for him.
Yeah,
Jojo Diaz is fighting out lightweight, right? I think that would be a great fight. Well, yes, he's fighting Fortuna, obviously. So Jojo Diaz, I don't know if he's going to stay there. But he's at least tomorrow. He's fighting Saturday. He's fighting at lightweight. So I would like to see that fight. It's Friday. He's fighting at lightweight. Jojo Diaz versus Hector Tanahara. Given they both win, why not?
I want to see how Jojo looks at the weight, but I might pick Jojo.
He just doesn't like to cut weight, right? Like,
he clearly doesn't want to cut weight.
I mean, he's not gonna
Didn't he miss weight for the Gary Russell fight?
He's missed weight. He missed weight for the Gary Russell fight, and then he missed weight again. His last one, he gave his belts up.
He's had a lot of personal issues. I'll be honest.
Although the Tevin Farmer, you give a performance like he gave against Tevin Farmer, most people picked him to lose, and he was just that mama mentality. He was not going to be denied that night. Like he was going to beat anyone that night. He was getting that strap.
He dog walked him.
That was an incredible performance. But you get that kind of performance, like you kind of get forgiveness. Like we forgive you for other issues, other throwing belts away on the scale in the prime of your career. We can look past like when you give that type of performance.
Let's wrap up this card as well because we only have been talking about the Tanahara performance or the fight on this card. We have yet to get to the Joseph Diaz fight, like you said, at lightweight against Jairo Fortuna, and that's a tough fight. But Joseph Diaz, especially at this new weight, and obviously the main event, Gilberto Ramirez. We haven't seen him in. It feels like forever, Gary. Like it's felt like years since we've seen Gilberto Ramirez in the ring. Fighting a top 15 name in Sullivan Barrera, who probably isn't the same as it used to be in terms of threat to Gilberto Ramirez. But thoughts on Ramirez and Sullivan Barrera, and I'll say the Diaz and Fortuna fight.
The Diaz Fortuna fight is interesting. I want to see because Fortuna's fought higher. He's fought at 140. Diaz is a guy that just doesn't seem like he likes to make weight. So you know what I'm saying? It's just like when Cotto moved up because he didn't want to cut weight anymore. Diaz is awfully young to say, I'm done cutting weight. I'm going to just fight guys naturally bigger than me. Let's see how he looks at the weight. So I'm going to hold judgment off of that. Like I kind of think the fight's going to go one way, but I'm gonna reserve that judgment until I see. Maybe Diaz comes in, he shredded up, and he built up his body, and he just didn't say, I don't like cutting weight this camp, so I'll fight at a higher weight. And Ramirez, Barrera, I thought Barrera was good. I went through his resume, and he's got to win over Joe Smith Jr. That's really it. Like, the rest, he's not that good. So, Ramirez should have, especially, he's 40 now, I think, right?
Barrera?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's old. He's got to be old.
Zorro Ramirez should steamroll. He should get a stoppage in the first half of the fight within 6 rounds.
I just want to see some progression for Ramirez.
He's 30 now.
And 41-0. He's 41-0 already. And his best wins are Jesse Hart.
Yeah.
And that's it. And no disrespect to Jesse Hart, but
he got his belt. I went back and looked at it. He got his belt against someone I never heard of. Like it was a vacant belt against someone I never heard of. But that's how Joaquin Gonzalez can be a world champion, right? Like when Russell or someone leaves the division, belts become open. What I'm saying, if he hangs around that weight class long enough, he'll be a world champion.
The issue is for Joaquin Gonzalez is he's not a 175-pound Mexican fighter that's really talented because that's like a unicorn. It's like Mexican heavyweights, right?
Yeah.
Like They're rare. They're not that common. Like first Mexican heavyweight champions, Andy Ruiz, for example, in 2019, or 18 when it was. It took that long for Mexico to get a heavyweight champion. There's a lot of Mexican fighters just aren't that big. That's why Zurdo got a push.
Mm-hmm.
Drake Gonzalez is just another guy from the Southwest United States, right? Because he's from the Southwest United States, right? I'm assuming.
Ramirez?
No, Joe Gonzalez. Where's he from?
I think he's from Chicago.
Is he?
I think. Let me look it up now.
No way.
I think he's from Chicago.
Okay, if he's from Chicago, then he definitely doesn't have a fan base.
No, he doesn't have a fan base. Because I'm not trying to find one. Didn't Shakur Stevenson date his daughter at the Olympic trials or something like that?
No, he dated his sister. His sister.
Daughter would be real young, right? Yeah, dated his sister. Sorry, that's dated his sister.
Yes, he did date Joette Gonzalez's sister. I don't think they're dating.
Oh, he's from California. Never mind. He's from California.
Yeah, there's a ton of people like Joette Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reality. Like, Joette Gonzalez is a guy that will get lost in the mix because there's a ton of people like Joette Gonzalez in California.
He's already got a world title shot. He just lost every round. Apparently, he won one. I don't remember what round he won, but all the judges got one round.
I don't think he landed a punch.
It's like, how do you this is Willie Pep stuff? Like, how do you score a round for a guy who doesn't land anything?
I agree with you on the Joseph Diaz fight with Fortuna, right? Because you're picking Joseph Diaz, but hesitantly.
Yeah.
Don't know about how dedicated he is. And Fortuna is one of those guys who's also he's always just doing weird shit in fights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's been a few times where he's gone DQs or he's just had a lot of point deductions in his career.
And he misses weight too.
These are two guys that are very unpredictable outside the ring and in the ring. So I'm picking Diaz because he's the sharper fighter. He's the better fighter. But there's a caveat to that pick. And I agree with you about Ramirez. He should beat Solomon Barrera. Solomon Barrera's past his prime, way past his prime. And he was never that great. He was just a credible top 15 guy, top 10 guy. Especially when he fought Andre Ward, he was a top 10 guy.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Ramirez, I think, is probably going to be nearing his peak or at his peak at this point in time. Barrera is a guy that's way past his peak. And he's not nearly as talented or as good as Gilbert Ramirez, either in boxing ability, power, whatever it may be, cardio. Gilbert Ramirez is just better than him in every single way. My only concern with Gilbert Ramirez is does he beat the top two guys? Because that's the question, right? I think he beats everyone else in the division because the division is not that great. Let's be honest, except for Beterbiev and Bivol. Those are the two big question marks. I mean, how do you see him with those top guys?
No, those names are tough. I mean, this fight's not going to show me a lot because, Barrera was never as good as probably I thought he was, and now he's 40. So I don't know if this fight's going to change my mind much, although I do think Ramirez should steamroll. The two top names is 75. One guy's a much better boxer, and the other guy literally knocks out everybody. Although Ramirez has a great knockout percentage too, right?
Yeah, he's a decent knockout.
Yeah.
I think so. But then again, who's he been fighting?
Alfonso Lopez. It's not that great. It's okay.
Tommy Carpensi, dude.
Carpensi.
In 2019.
Alfonso Lopez.
Jesse Hart again. Almeida. Who?
Keep going down. Arthur Abraham was 100 years old.
Dude. Maxim Vlasov. That's a decent one.
Okay. But that's who he beat right there. The vacant belt, right? The vacant.
Yep. Giovanni Lorenzo. Dude, one of your boys.
No, wait.
Well, is he Italian? Oh, damn it. No, he's Dominican. Fuck.
But I'm saying this is who he beats for a world title. Wait, is that the world title or is the next one?
No, it's vacant. Yep.
Vacant?
Oh, no.
The next one was the vacant international.
Where the fuck is this
Who
win?
did he beat for a world title? I guess it was
Arthur Abraham.
What did Abraham? Abraham had a 168 belt? That had to be something he won vacant. That had to be something given to him.
Dude, well, come on, 168 and 175 have been awful for
all the Abraham
for years, Gary. Let's be honest. When's the last time 175 was good or 168?
They had Andre Durrell and Andre Durrell.
They never fought
boxing for a while, and he was so good.
They never fought each other. Where's this fight at? Here we go, right there. All right. How do you get this belt? How did he get this belt? Vacant. No, that's vacant Intercontinental. Where we at?
Where was it? Stieglitz.
Right here.
All right,
Stieglitz.
you beat Stieglitz for the belt.
Stieglitz is one of those German fighters
All
that
right.
like gets built up.
You didn't go back. How did Stieglitz get a belt? Whatever. He won it from a champion, so whatever.
It's the WBO.
Yeah, W bogus.
Yeah, I think Ramirez can probably beat Bivol. You know me, I'm not that high on him. Better Beef, I think, is a bridge too far.
Bivol's good, man. I don't know why you don't like Bill. He did not look good in his last fight, but he hasn't fought much, and I don't understand that. Like main event is like, who else do you have? Like I literally can't name one other person on your stable. Who else will you promote? Like,
He's not with Eddie Hearn.
He's got a co-promotional deal with the Zone, with Eddie Hearn, with Matchroom, not the Zone, with Matchroom. But his promoter is still main events. Mm-hmm. Like if Eddie's not working for you, then like I don't understand who else you promote. Who else does main events promote?
Was Sergey Kovalev.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't look at that. Don't look at that, Gary. I apologize. Do not look at that. I'm just trying to look for topics if we had any more. There wasn't that much news out there, right? Like Mauricio Lara, Josh Warrington rematch.
Brady is moving up to heavyweight, which I think is interesting.
I mean, that was expected, right? I mean, he cleaned up cruiserweight. He
did. He's got to go to heavyweight for the money. He's gonna get knocked out. He's not big enough. And then Rigo is
now fighting Casamora
again after it was off, and now it's back on.
I don't even care about it anymore.
It's still a good fight, though. I mean,
I just don't care about them anymore.
This trilogy, this love triangle.
I hate it.
Can't Rigo just fight
anyone?
Rigo fight Donaire, and let's be done with it. That's the fight we all want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just do that. Like Casamora shouldn't really be. It's not necessary for him to be in this.
Canelo doesn't want to fight Triple G again. I mean, we knew this. Like this, that fight's never going to happen, huh?
Canelo, no, I told him he doesn't like Triple G, so he's not going to fight him again. Like, I don't need to fight you. I've beaten you. I don't need to fight you again. So he said he'd rather fight Charlo,
which I mean would be probably easy fight.
Which I think he's going to work out a 2-fight deal with
PBC,
and those are going to be his next plan. And well, he really wants to fight Better Beef, which I don't think he should do.
No, we've never heard Canelo or Eddie Ernesto say that.
Eddie Hearns says he wants.
Eddie Hearns says
he's sickly obsessed with it.
If Eddie Ernesto said that, I would believe it. Because Eddie Ernesto said Charlo. Right? Like Ernesto's the one that mentioned Charlo, and I think he mentioned Benavidez too, right?
Yeah.
Which I understand. I think those are the bigger money fights, relatively speaking, because they're not really the biggest money fights. None of these guys are big money fights to a degree. But Benavidez, Charlo are probably the bigger money fights than anyone and on sort of his horizon, whether it's Plant, whether it's Better Be Bivol, whoever we're talking about. Charlo, Benavidez are the best sort of B-sides to him. And Derek Chisora and David Hay split from their business agreement. I don't know about this.
I don't really care about that too much.
No, I don't care about it either.
That was for Rob's. I thought maybe Rob would elaborate on why I care about this.
Is that it for news? Guys in the chat, let us know. Is there any big news out there that we left off?
I don't think so. I think that's it. The other thing is, why does Eddie Hearn keep having Jamal Charlo in his mouth? Why is that name constantly in his mouth? He's got a guy in that same weight class who he doesn't do anything for. Nothing. Not Canelo, the other one. He does. I guess Canelo's not in the same weight class, right? Because Canelo's 68-pounder now. But he does absolutely nothing for Andrade. He laughs at him when Canelo makes fun of him. Like, I get it. That was classic. Eddie Hearn. Andrade is as much your fighter as Canelo is.
No, he's not. Because one makes him a lot more money right now.
Oh, and Canelo was also a promotional free agent at that time too, because that fight that was the second fight of their 2-fight deal.
Yep.
You can't he got embarrassed.
Embarrassed.
That's still your fighter, Eddie Hearn. You're supposed to promote him. Stick up for your fighter. And then why are you? He's saying that Charlo didn't look good against Montiel. Montiel's better than anyone that Andre has ever fought. Period. Like I said this before that show. I said Montiel's good.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Fans Monterosian.
Montiel knocks him out. Look what you're saying. Vanes Monterosian. His claim to fame is he fought Laura Tough before a headbutt.
Franz Monterosian is definitely better than Montiel. Montiel's doing this and just like
See, the thing about Montiel is he's tall and long, and he's so painfully slow. Like it looks like really
like Dominic Brazil, but worse.
Like if he wasn't so tall and long, it wouldn't look as like.
You know, so
my wife was watching that fight with me. She knows I'm a big Charles. It's like, why does he punch like that? Because he's really slow, babe. Like the hand speed, and Charles, quick for middleweight. And it's like the hand speed was night and day. But
I can't believe Charlo didn't knock him out.
Not everyone gets knocked out like that.
Yo, but
Munguia knocked him out.
Munguia...
Did you see the fight?
No,
I didn't see it either.
We gotta find that fight now, Garrett, because you mentioned it all the time now.
Maybe it was a horrible stoppage, right?
It could have been, but it wasn't listed TKO. It was listed KO. So.
Was it?
Yeah, listed full KO.
All right.
I mean, that means he was unconscious, right? That the doc.
Yeah, it was automatically Pacquiao Mayweather.
Oh,
but I'm saying, like, you don't think Charlo hit him with enough shots to knock him out? It wasn't Brandon Adams where he couldn't consistently score combinations on him, and he was missing badly.
No, he was landing on Montiel, man. He was landing.
Contrary to what people like, contrary to popular opinion, I actually don't think Charlo is a good closer at all. I think he's a terrible finisher. He swings wildly and misses. I know he's got power and he scores knockouts, but like you watch him try to finish guys, that's not his strong suit. Not unless they're completely wounded, right? Like, did
J-Rock.
Yeah.
J-Rock.
He got up and then he got
put down again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Goddamn, Gary. When are you leaving? When are you leaving out of town?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Goddamn, Gary. You had to leave so soon.
I do have like a wife and kid back.
I know, but like just move to California. Okay.
I'm not moving to California. I miss Texas already.
It's Texas already. And you're gonna be busy tomorrow, so we won't be able to probably tomorrow. But I might go to the fight, so I might see you on Friday, Gary. But man, it was good to see you.
Are we done?
I think
we're done. Out for the day?
I think we're out, man. I think we're out. Unless you want to come right back and do a political show, but I got the kids here. They're probably tired.
Yeah, I mean, it's
make them suffer.
9:00 here. What time is it?
Yep.
8:30. No, it was good to be here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to my hotel now and fall asleep. We're done, right?
We're done.
All right. Find me off on social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing blog. Like and subscribe to my new channel, Texas Boxing Scene.
Do it.
All proceeds go to autism research and recovery. It is, what is it, like July 7th, 2021.
Yes.
Ivan Calderon is still not in the Boxing Hall of Fame. We're more than halfway through 2021. He's still not in the Hall of Fame. Let's get the Iron Boy in from Texas. Oh, Texas is still not a country. Let's make Texas a country again.
How's that going?
Didn't happen. They held it in the subcommittees. They wouldn't let it on the floor.
And it
they
died.
would have let
died.
it on the floor. It would have passed. Yeah, the Texas, the houses only meet from January to the end of April every other year. Was it January to the end of May? No, January to the end of May. So it's 5 months every other year. So it's.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Really? That little?
Yeah.
Wow. Damn.
So that's
state politics right there.
I mean, the governor, he's calling a special session now, I think, for the voting ID and voting laws because they didn't vote on it last time. But I don't know how that works, right? Obviously, because the Democrat Party is a minority party in the state. And they just didn't show up. But apparently, you need like a certain number of people
to actually hold the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how rules work that way, huh? Most likely, Matthew McConaughey is going to be your guy.
He's not going to be going. Does he really want to do? I agree that if he runs, he'll win because he's Matthew McConaughey.
Maybe
it's the stupidest reason to vote for someone, but I don't like Greg Abbott either. But that's for another story. But like, it's the stupidest reason to vote for someone is because he's Lincoln Lawyer. It's such a good movie.
It is a good movie. Wait, like, that's the one movie
I love that movie. I love that movie. That is like one of my. That's one of my. That is the best, most underrated film. Like if you said, "Give me your most underrated films," Lincoln Lawyer. That's such a good movie.
It is a great movie, but damn, Dazed and Confused.
No, he's a great man. That's why he's gonna if he runs. But does he really? He's a celebrity. He's a movie star.
Arnold Schwarzenegger won.
How'd he do? Did anyone like him? Did he win re-election? Did he even run for re-election?
I think he did win re-election.
Stop. Wasn't he like the least popular governor? But this is.
think
that
he
was
did.
a recall election, right? So you have 15 candidates, whoever gets the most wins. Is that how it works?
I think it was. 'Cause, Gary, this was like back in what 2000, like 1 or 2, right? When he
Yeah, I think it was
governor.
2002. Yeah.
was super early.
And Cornel West is running for governor of Texas, so I would imagine
Really?
if he primaries, not Cornel West, Alan West, completely
Oh.
different person.
I'm like Cornel West is running for governor.
Alan West,
Totally different person.
completely different person, is running for governor, and I would imagine that he would beat Abbott in a primary. So I would think no one really likes Abbott. People are okay with him. You don't think so?
I don't think anyone likes Abbott. Everyone
Right,
from
so-
Texas I know does not like Abbott.
Alan West would beat him in a primary. I would think.
We're about to have a special election here, Gary.
No, but this is just 2022.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then you have Alan, but this Lincoln Lawyer, is he even part of a party? He's running as an independent.
Yeah, here's the win though.
I don't. He certainly could win. Like, but I'm saying he's got the name, right? I'm saying, could you just outspend him? I don't know. And if he splits the vote, who does he take the vote from? Or does he just take votes from both people because people like Matthew McConaughey? You know what I'm saying? If Matthew McConaughey ran, I don't even know any of his politics really. Who would he take votes from? Would the Republicans, Democrats?
I'm assuming Republicans, right?
But you only say that because he's a Texan.
No, I'm not, because I think his sort of rhetoric, right? Not policy, because I don't think I've really heard any policy from him.
Yeah.
But rhetoric, right, is very much a libertarian-esque rhetoric, right?
Yeah.
So I think that falls naturally more in line with the Republican Party and independents in Texas, of course. I mean, you might get some liberals that like Matthew McConaughey, but I don't think Matthew McConaughey is liked by liberals that much. He has that Joe Rogan appeal now because he's on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I did huge numbers.
So did you put that? Was that you? Who put that in my time that where it had like, this is why the right doesn't want to debate the left? And it was Joe Rogan, and what's the guy's name that used to be on the Young Turks? That's always on Tucker Carlson now.
Jimmy Dore?
No, Rubens.
Oh, Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubens.
Dave Rubin.
And so Dave Rubens is debating something with Joe Rogan, and I missed the point of what they were debating, but like, don't they basically have the same position on things? I don't even know which one you're telling me is the right and which one's the left. And
No, they're just different variations of the right? Like they would have to be. Because I remember, because like Dave Rubin doesn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast anymore. He's not allowed to.
Okay.
There's beef now. Gary, I know this is completely off topic. This is definitely trending now. General Strike podcast information, but this is funny. Because obviously you had like the intellectual dark web, right? Which was Sam Harris, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin.
Ben Shapiro's in that bunch?
Yes, the Weinstein brothers,
Okay.
Brett and Eric Weinstein, who were the professors from that college that got famous, and obviously Joe Rogan. And they all pretty much hate Dave Rubin now. And they've made videos about it.
Okay.
Like Sam Harris especially has made videos like talking about Dave Rubin.
Ben Shapiro too, because Dave Rubin's like a regular now on Fox. Like he's like a panelist. Like he's call him a contributor or whatever. Like I guess he doesn't work for them, but he's on.
Last time I checked, his show got picked up by Glenn Beck's network, The Blaze.
So he works for The Blaze.
Yes. That's last time I checked. That's what.
So he went from the Young Turks to The Blaze.
Yes, I think there was a period of time where he had his independent YouTube
He
channel.
did, yeah, the Dave
But
Rubin show.
independent,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably funded by Koch dollars, but Koch brothers, not Coke in terms of the drug.
KOCK.
Yeah, we'll make that distinction for our listeners.
KOCH.
And obviously he got picked up by The Blaze, I want to say 2018-ish, 17-ish, give or take. But Dave Rubin, he also went on the show. Remember him and Joe Rogan on that big debate about like construction regulation?
I think that's what they were. I think that's the one. Were you the one that put this in my time?
Maybe.
Okay.
This might have been a while ago, because obviously this wasn't super recent, I think, right? Or was this super recent?
No, this was recent. It's like somebody. Might not have been you. Someone put it on my Twitter, like in my Twitter, and I saw it, and they tagged me, and it was like, and like.
It wasn't me then. I didn't
Okay. I'm like, why? What's Joe Rogan and Rubens are probably politically pretty comparable. Like they're probably
absolutely
pretty similar, right?
Absolutely, but they interpret Dave Rubin as being stupid. Like that's kind of what they've said
Okay.
on the sly.
All right.
For Dave Rubin. Because I'm not a fan of any of those guys, but Dave Rubin's clearly not the sharpest tool of that bunch.
I don't really know that, but I know.
Well, you know Sam Harris. I'm
I
assuming.
know Sam Harris. I know Ben Shapiro
Yeah.
is. I know they are.
Yeah.
I don't really pay much mind to them, right? Like, I don't. Ben Shapiro's supposed to be this, like, not sound master debater. Like, I'm saying, seems like, you know, like I don't understand. It's like the other guy, the right loves, the Indian guy.
Oh, Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah.
Dinesh D'Souza. Dude, the worst.
Why is he like?
His documentaries are so bad.
But they hold this guy on a pedestal. Like, here's our ace in the hole. It's like, I can find a million things wrong with it. Just like, yeah, like none of their arguments are like, ooh, like they're typical conservative talking point. Whatever, that's what you like. That's what you like. But what I'm saying is, like, they don't give you anything that really challenges what you know. They give you the talking point. They give you the party lines. Okay, if they didn't impress me when Sean Hannity said them, why do they impress me when, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing different about them.
The weird part is like they kind of like angle themselves as like independent libertarians too, and like you said, they just echo.
Yeah, but Ben Shapiro does. Ben Shapiro wants he wants marijuana to be illegal. Like, he wants you to go to jail for life if you take marijuana. Like,
But he's called himself a libertarian.
that's insane. I guess.
I mean, he's definitely said, "I'm a libertarian. I'm for limited government." He's definitely said those words before. He has to.
Marijuana possession should get you life in jail, no parole. Like, I don't know how you put those two things together.
Republicans do that though, Gary. Anyways, I wish you were here for a General Strike podcast show. That'd be fun. I'll be back sometime probably later this week for a General Strike podcast. I'll try. If not, next week, maybe with Gary, do another debate show. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/Turning Down Network. Follow us right there on social media. That is our usernames and @. Follow us to get all of these great spicy takes from us about Ben Shapiro being a lame. I love it. And remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Peace.